What is going on, guys? We have our Christmas showdown between my own Minnesota Vikings and the New Orleans Saints. Now, my Vikings are not really competing for anything here, as they kind of have dug their own grave this season, but we are excited to potentially win some money. And I think on Christmas, it will be a great way to, spend time, watch the game with your family. So let's get into the slate. If you are new to our channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on the notifications. If you can just hit a like on this video, throw a comment, even if it's Merry Christmas, that's fine with me. It all goes a long way to helping us grow our channel here at Fantasy Sports Insight. And as always, if you are looking for more than just the video content we have here online on YouTube, you can always go to fsidfs.com and join our premium Discord channel that we cover every sport. So we always start here on odds, and the Vikings are a 7-point dog. Saints have a lot more to play for than the Vikings. And I think just in general, even without Michael Thomas here, I think it's tough to, write off the Saints at all. Now, obviously, they lost to KC. They hung in it. Breeze didn't look great, but I think this is a spot where Vikings could play spoiler, but I think from a DFS perspective, I think there's still value on both sides of the game. Normally, when it's a 7-point favorite, you think like stack the favorite, and I don't really think that's the case here. So let's get into the slate. Let's start with the favored side. I think Alvin Kamara probably will be the most popular play in the entire slate. So I think I would definitely lock him in. Even after, I think getting vultured on a Taysom Hill touchdown last game, he just like seems to get there. So he had the touchdown catch to kind of like save his whole day, but then quietly still had 18.4 points. Now, I think people wanted more from him, like they wanted the game that Dalvin Cook had, but just wasn't in the cards. Emmanuel Sanders gets a massive boost in price compared to the last slate where he was 5,600, was probably way too cheap when Michael Thomas was ruled out. I didn't get to him on that slate just because it was the KC slate, so I really wanted to jam in all the studs. So I think at 8,800, he is going to be the top target here for Drew Brees, and I think he's definitely viable. It really kind of depends on if you think that New Orleans really relies on their run game, which I think they will be able to do here, compared to the KC game where they were chasing. So Sanders in play at 8,800, I don't think he's a lock. So let's see, going down here, Traquan Smith rolled his ankle late in the game, or maybe like in the second half or something. He would be their like wide receiver 2 target. He's in play as well. Probably have to just see if he's active for the game on Christmas. Now, if he's inactive, I think, I'll talk about that in a little bit, but I think that will definitely upgrade some of our other potential punt options. So for New Orleans through the passing game. Taysom Hill, obviously, is cheaper now, had the rushing touchdown last game. I don't think you can really consider him when he's not at starting quarterback, because then you're just hoping for the 1-yard touchdown run, which is still only 6 points at 6,000, doesn't really pay off. Jared Cook, 5,600. I think, especially if we see Traquan Smith out, I think that just adds more to Jared Cook's plate. I don't think, his role totally changes. I just think that you might see Breeze look to him more than the other guys. I still think he's like touchdown or bust in a sense. Like, I don't think he's going to get enough yards and catches to like break the slate without a touchdown, but I definitely think he has touchdown equity without Michael Thomas on the field. Latavius Murray, his price has just jumped around so much this year. It's just insane. Like, we got him here at like, look at the prices we were getting him at. 3,200, 2,400, 2,200, 22, 22, 68. Then he played awful. And Kamara was active in that game. And then back down to 2.8. And then last game, 2,000. He scores the receiving touchdown. Didn't really do much else other than that. And now he's kind of stuck in the middle. He's at 4,800, which I don't really like that price tag for him unless you fall into that spot. So I prefer Will Lutz at 3,800, which I think is probably the best point per dollar value play on the slate. the Saints do a great job at getting in position. Now, he hasn't been that good lately, but a game at home in a game that I think they play a lot better, I think that he is very much in play at 3,800. I wouldn't get caught up on the game logs there. Now, Saints D, fine, they're in play. Against Kirk Cousins, I think you can always see a defensive touchdown, right? So here's where it gets interesting for the value for New Orleans. So if Tre'Quan Smith is out, they might upgrade Humphrey back from the practice squad again. I don't know how that works. He did have a touchdown last game on 4 targets, but was already reverted back to the practice squad. So he would definitely need Tre'Quan Smith to be out probably to get reactivated. Then we have down here at 2,200, Juwan Johnson, who actually has been active for the last 2 games, had 4 targets last game, just didn't have a catch. Now, I don't know if he dropped those targets or what, but again, I think opportunity cost would show that if Tre'Quan Smith is out, I'm assuming he had those targets late in that game, he could become viable. Tommy Lee Lewis, I know, dropped his only target, I'm pretty sure, in this game. Usually, I think more of a special teams guy, but I think potentially could see some added value if the rest are out. I think that is about it. Yeah, I think Carr has been active before, but looks like he's back on the practice squad. So just be on the lookout, monitor that injury news for the receivers for New Orleans. All right, let's go to the Minnesota side. Dalvin Cook is 12,000 in what DraftKings is saying is probably the toughest matchup against one of the best run defenses, which, you can't disagree against that. And 12,000, the most expensive player on the slate, like this is the time you actually could maybe consider fading him because he's still at 12,000, likely needs 20 plus points. And I think it's going to be hard to project him for that. And every time you think that on Dalvin Cook, then he goes off. So I think he's definitely fine in cash. I don't think he's a must play like he is basically in any other matchup. Then you get somebody like Kirk Cousins here at 9,600, who's performed, really well DFS wise over the last, really consistent. He's at a couple 18 pointers, but other than that, he's usually 20 plus. So in a game that, Vegas is predicting them to be trailing, then I think you can definitely make a case for someone like Cousins. I do prefer pairing him up with Jefferson over Thielen. Thielen in our offense lately has just been more touchdown dependent, which he's phenomenal in the red zone and can make some phenomenal catches. But I think just, marching down the field, I'm seeing more balls go to Jefferson. Irv Smith Jr. is really intriguing. I'm pretty sure Kyle Rudolph is going to be out again. Tyler Conklin was kind of like the beneficiary of both of them being out, and it had a touchdown. But I think Irv Smith, we know, and even we saw like before he got injured again, he had a game here, 4 catches, 63 yards and a touchdown, had 2 touchdowns against Detroit in that game. I think he's going to get enough targets and has some upside. 5,200, I like him more than like Latavius Murray. Dan Bailey is viable. He's been awful this year, but then he makes 2 field goals last game, 3 extra points, hits value there. Tyler Conklin could be in play as well as a decent value play. Otherwise, you got some flyers like Chad Beebe, BC Johnson, who only played 9 snaps last game. So then it gets kind of difficult down there. So let's take a look at the slate as overall. My favorite cash plays are going to be Alvin Kamara. I think probably Cousins and Drew Brees. I definitely could see going up to Cook over Drew Brees, especially if Tre'Quan Smith is out. Then I definitely would probably consider a build like this. And even a build like this, if you use Kamara at captain, you're not dead in money yet. But if you go instead, you say, well, I think Brees can probably outperform or only, be within like 3 to 4 points of Cook, then that might give you some more options when you lock in probably Lutz here at 3,800. And even if you went double kicker and Bailey, you can get yourself back up to Jared Cook or Irv Smith Jr. So there's a lot of potential options. Obviously, you can go cheaper than Kamara at captain, which I think is fine. Even somebody like Jefferson or Cousins. My 2 favorite values are the kickers and likely after the kickers, I think it's going to just be whatever happens with the Saints injury news and the receivers. And then I think I'm just fading Thielen and probably fading. Yeah, I'm just not really sure on Sanders. Like, I'm not fading Sanders, but in the builds where you want to get 3 guys ahead of him, it makes it a little bit more difficult to get to him in cash. So hopefully you are enjoying our content here at Fantasy Sports Insight. Be on the lookout for 3 different showdown breakdowns for the games on Saturday on December 26th. I think there's still a ton of value in these showdown slates, especially in these primetime Saturdays. I love all these showdown primetime matchups. So thanks a lot for listening. Good luck.